Should go live. Welcome everybody. It's Monday. Can you guys believe?
Yay!
Yeah, can you believe where the time goes, Lisa?
No, I can't.
Wasn't it just Monday yesterday?
Seems like it.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna just be showing you my progress on this painting. As I said, I wasn't really loving it. I had a couple of things I've been experimenting with. Number one, working on canvas is a very coarse weave. And the coarser the canvas usually means the cheaper it was. So, of course, when I first got this canvas on big sale 5 years ago, I didn't know what I was doing. And so I just kind of purchased a few different kinds of canvases. And this one was very coarse. That's okay, though. It's been a learning experience. There's some things that work well and some things that don't. So lesson learned there. Second big challenge for me was working with this really odd palette. It's a fluorescent paint palette, and that's been interesting as well. I liked the swatch, so I did do a swatch, which I guess is something that I normally would do, and I'm glad I did it. I identified on that swatch some colors that I was really liking, but as you'll see in today's episode 6, this is episode, or is it episode? Yeah, it's episode 6. When I progressed with it, I just had this feeling like, wow, this is really an odd palette. I mean, when you think about it, fluorescent pink, fluorescent red, fluorescent blue, and yellow are not the normal colors that most of us have even in our studio. And they're Nova colors. They are acrylic. And as I progressed with this, some of my thoughts were, well, maybe I'll transition into oil and cold wax. But I did do some tests before deciding whether I would do that. I will share those tests with you to explain why I didn't do that. But please be sure to ask questions. Lisa Debates, my wonderful super co-host, is here. She's from Seattle. A lot of you know her. And thank you, Lisa, for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Because she's in Seattle. It's an hour earlier for her, but she did have her coffee and hopefully she had her breakfast. So those two things are pretty important. Great to see you, Wendy and Dorothy, Rebecca, Marit. Wow, Marit's here from Norway. Deb Bowen. Thank you, Deb, for joining us. Susan Henry Scott, Bonnie Dorgello. Yay, guys. I'm happy to see you. And so what I'm going to do, we're going to get started because in the U.S. it's Memorial Day. And I know a lot of people are probably out camping or barbecuing or having friends over, whatever. So this will be an hour long. And what I'm going to do is I worked on this painting a lot over the last probably 2 weeks. And what I did was I recorded it. So what you're getting now is like me giving you commentary of a video that we're going to watch together, which is kind of a weird hybrid. It's weird seeing myself. Part of the video I'll be talking and I'll probably just not override what I'm saying when I'm talking, but there's a lot of silence in my recording, and then I will be doing the talk over then. So if you guys have any questions, please pop it into chat. Okay, that's the best way that we can acknowledge your question. Lisa can even pin your question.
Susan has one already.
Oh, let's see. Okay.
She says, how does the magic mix work with fluorescents?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it works just fine because our magic mix is our magic mix. And that's the greatest way to get harmony in any painting. I love it because whether you're working with 3 colors, 2 colors, or 50 colors, and you don't even have to have all 50. You can have 4 or 3. The magic mix is simply a cool way in color theory. You're adding whatever it is to all of the colors on your palette. That is the common denominator that harmonizes and makes everybody feel so comfortable at a big party when you don't really, before you mix the harmony mix, you feel like you're a bunch of strangers at a party. When you add that harmony color to all the colors, all of a sudden they all have the same drink and you're speaking the same language. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and hello to Robert and Shiloh, Marion, Joy. We'll give you guys a few seconds to get on here. I know it's early for many of you. Tell us where you're telling us where you're from, and good narration sounds great. That was a question we had, right, Lisa?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vancouver, Washington. That's Joy. Okay. Any other questions before we get started? Anything at all?
Should we ask him about the music in the background? Does that sound okay or
You
strange?
guys, yeah. Do you
'Cause
guys hear music, and is it okay? Or do you want me to shut it off? We'll take a vote here. It's pretty faint right now. I can
It
turn it
is.
just a bit.
And
There's music. It's kind of like, because I'm going to be talking here.
yeah.
Let's see what the responses are. Beautiful weather. Good to be here. Hi, Marianne. Okay, so we're going to get started, guys. And thank you, Susan, for letting us know. Okay, Lisa, so I'm going to add this video here. And I do start talking right away. So let me turn the music down a little bit so that we don't have. And don't worry, for the first 6 minutes, I'm giving you like this, refresher on what I've been doing. But then after that, I'm going to be talking live. So let's go with this. Oops. Okay. So, Lisa, are you muted? I'm going to mute you, mute myself. Hi, everybody. I'm going to continue working on this 3-foot by 6-foot acrylic on canvas painting. Currently, I don't love it. And I know why, though. I mean, obviously, it's in the play stage, so I don't have to love it. There are a lot of things that I enjoy about it. I enjoy the fact that I was playful in the beginning and I've got a lot of crazy marks. But the reason I'm not loving it is because I haven't really mixed my colors. They're pretty pure. So right now what I love is the mark making and I like the spontaneity. But as far as it being in the play stage, which I normally don't love, although I do admire some things that are happening, I know that in order for me to work toward loving this painting, I need to move forward with it, obviously, and put on a few more layers, add, subtract, the usual things. And also, I need to really pay attention to the color swatch I made because there are a lot of beautiful colors on here. They were made with fluorescents and just the 3 colors, fluorescent blue, fluorescent red, fluorescent yellow in the Nova color range with black and white. So what I'm really feeling close to really enjoying are like these colors down here, the more muted blues and blue grays. So that's what tells me kind of what direction I want to head toward in terms of the back and forth layering. Doesn't mean there won't be some warm colors in there as well, but that's what I'm going to be working on. Okay.
I can't hear you.
There. Better?
Yes, I couldn't unmute you because you did it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right, so one of the things that I want to point out here is that what you'll see me doing here, remember I said I wasn't loving it. One of the things we did in the earlier episodes here on YouTube was I showed you the concept of automatic drawing, automatic painting. You guys did it with me in some cases. We've done this in Art and Success Pro in our membership, where we've really been diving into this idea of like, what is automatic drawing or painting? It's not thinking. And oftentimes in the beginning of my paintings, that's what I'm doing because that's my invitation to join, get started in my studio. It's a way for me to very low bar. Like I can step over a low bar, but give me a 5-foot high bar, I can't step over that very well. So automatic drawing and painting is anything goes. What tends to happen for me is I feel like I'm at my most creative because there are no barriers, like any color, any shape, any brush, anything goes, right? So that's what I'm doing here to push this painting forward. As I said, I wasn't loving it, but I pinpointed why I wasn't loving it. And that's kind of important, even in the play stage. Like, okay, I'm a child, I'm playing, but what I realized was that most of the colors I'd used up until the point of beginning this painting again was pure color, and they're fluorescent. So they're kind of clashing. And so what I'm doing now is I'm mixing color, and you'll see that here. Long brush handle, and Unfortunately, these brushes are not available anymore at the moment, but
Now,
they're
this is a color that's obviously more mixed. It has, let's see, black and white, which is gray. So this is a tone of my fluorescent blue, and it's quite lovely. Quite different from, say, this and this. You can just see how much more sophisticated this feels. And right now I'm just continuing on with play. I, really just had gotten started with play. So now I've got what's going on here is this back and forth between pure color, pretty much unmixed, and now these lovely grays. And it's oftentimes the grays that fascinate me. So I'm using this long handled brush and just continuing to play because I just, I really just gotten started on this painting and didn't get very far. So I'm just going to continue doing what I love to do the most in the beginning, which is just to play. I just begun the play process. So it was really in a way too early to say that, yeah, I'm not liking it, but then I normally wouldn't like something that's this early on. And this is just one of many colors I will be mixing today. Just moving this forward, you can see there's still a lot of gray gessoed canvas, and it doesn't feel as bad as the white canvas would feel, but I can still see there's a lot of it, which means that, I've got a lot more playing to do.
So I'm going to just add here, at least I'm going to do this and then do that. Okay, how do we show the painting, the video and me? Because I just want to make some there. That's fine. That's great. Okay, and you can hear me, right? Okay, so a few comments. The under the ground, the gesso was grayed. I did not use a white gesso on this painting, just so you know. Any white you see here is actually white paint. So to refresh your memories, I started with a gray gesso. And of course, many of you have used colored grounds. That's what it's called. In this case, I used a gray mid-tone ground, because if you start with mid-tone, it's pretty easy to go light. It's easy to go dark. And this is one of the first, again, many firsts for me on this. Number 1, fluorescent colors. Number 2, canvas. Number 3, a mid-tone gessoed layer. So, I just want to say that I'm very experimental and I don't know what's going to happen at this point. So I'm just moving this painting forward.
I'll be trying out some different brushes, and this canvas has been taped all the way around, so I know where those marks are. Add just a little bit of airbrushed medium on here directly to kind of thin things out just a little. Whether they drip or not is not so important. It's just on the canvas I'm kind of mixing to get a washy sort of thing going. And if I like it, I'll add more. So I guess I like it. Kind of bringing more of this one color that I'm really liking.
If you guys can't get these long
So
handled,
right away, that does help that side, I think. I just need to...
Yeah, if you can't get these long handled brushes, then you can always get a dowel rod and you can attach it to any brush, and that will work pretty well. Just get some duct tape, or you could even permanently glue it. The advantage of the long handled brush as well is that you lose control. Part of being that 3-year-old again is all about losing control. Remember when you were 3. So whenever you're kind of starting to get critical of yourself and you're in the play stage, say, okay, well, what would a 3-year-old do? I often do that myself. Wait a minute. I have to edit my own thinking sometimes and say, wait a minute, what did I just say to myself? Because I'm 3, right? And literally, I've been more since I've been doing this, been able to think back to when I was 3. And I certainly was not thinking, I guarantee you that.
So much more fun when you're 3.
I'm going to change the color a bit, add some black and some white. So again, it's going to be a tone of that blue. Okay, so now you can see I've mixed this lovely, it's a little bit lighter blue, and it is a tone. So you can kind of see how it compares to that other blue. And I think this painting is kind of trending toward the blues because I really love the blues that are possible with this palette. And this is a blue-gray.
Is that airbrush medium you're squirting on the canvas?
Yes, it is. I do use a lot of airbrush medium just directly on there. You can see it's, if it results in some drips, fine. But mainly what I'm trying to do is instead of thinning it on my palette, I'm thinning it right on the canvas. So, and then of course right now I've switched over to a shorter handled brush, different effect. I'm also, as you can see here, going for some more solid areas because I'm asking myself, like, what don't I have, right? So I've got a lot of chaos and a lot of changes in value. So when you put in a big solid like I'm doing right now, what that does for you is, again, I think art is so full of choices. Don't you guys agree? Like, it's kind of like, by asking yourself what I don't have, that's a prompt. That's not thinking. That's very simple. Even a child does that. Like, what don't I have? Dessert. What do I have? Broccoli. I'm not happy, right? So you can be playful and to move any painting forward, oftentimes just asking what you don't have, especially when you're not happy with it. If you're not happy with like bright garish colors, well then what you don't have is the grays and the desaturation. I can't remember when I was 3. Yeah, that's pretty tough for me too. How about you, Lisa? Can you remember when you were 3?
Not really, but it's fun to let myself go and pretend like I'm 3.
Yes, great. I love that. Yeah. What I was doing when I was 3, I remember going like door to door to my neighbors and just like wanting to do what they were doing. Like if they were gardening, I wanted to garden. If they're washing their car, I wanted to wash their car. So I just roamed the neighborhood. We lived on a dead end street, and I just remember being really young. And yeah, my reward was a piece of hard candy, which I then swallowed when I was on a swing set. And I was so upset with myself that this wonderful thing I had in my mouth, I just swallowed it.
Oh,
yeah, right. Such a sad story. Hey, Judith, great to see you. Love having you here. Okay, so again, just adding more of this kind of what's the right, grade blue. I'm definitely responding to the colors on my color swatch that were more of these blued. You can tell the whole thing is moving toward these blues. So almost subconsciously, I guess, working, I could have kept that battle going between warms and cools, right? The fluorescent red, I could have had equal amount of that. But instead, when I looked at my swatch, I immediately responded more to the cools than the warms. The warms are nice in that they're little pops of color. And granted, I didn't mix a lot of the fluorescent red with black and white. But I will tell you that I know where the painting is now, and I'll show you that where it is like now because I worked on it even beyond the end of this little clip here. And my intention is to bring back some of those very bright fluorescent red colors, and they will make a return, but at the end. So in other words, like play gives you that chance to try things out. There's a lot of covering up going on now. Right here, I'm putting in some of my favorite types of language. We all have our favorite types of shapes and marks and symbols. I tend to do these loop-de-loops a lot. And I do recall when I was sitting in all these boring classes, like doodling in my sketchbook. And oftentimes I'd have all these little loop-de-loop things. And I don't know, Lisa, what kind of things do you doodle? What comes up when you doodle?
Well, actually, my doodles are more like zigzags.
Ooh.
Yeah, I never really did loop-de-loops, and that was one thing, when you read we used to have magazines, real life magazines, right? And so they had all those things that you read. If you are this, you are not this,
Oh,
and
okay.
I believe that as a kid, that if I didn't do curvilinear linear loop-de-loops, I wasn't creative. And I always did zigzags, and so I did not think I was creative until not very long ago,
Oh my
actually. And it was a
God.
lie. Don't believe all those things you read.
No. And plus, you doing zigzags, that to me is like, that's rectilinear, whereas I was doing loop-de-loops, which are curvilinear.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wow. What do
Yeah.
you guys do when you doodle? I'm really curious. Okay. So I love the little blue. Let's pin this guy from Christina. I love the little blue, which is the original blue. So the original blue is actually fluorescent blue, and it is clearly fluorescent. Where you can actually see that is in the very upper left hand corner of the painting, because that's untouched fluorescent blue. What I'm doing now is this is another thing that we kind of talked about, guys. Have been asserting and obliterating, right? Asserting and obliterating, and that process is a wonderful way to. It's like being in a dressing room. You try it on, don't like it, take it off. Well, the taking off part is the obliterating part. And now I'm adding like dots because I love dots, right? So the way for me to move this painting forward is to first just get started. I did choose a limited palette. I don't always choose a limited palette. You can see I'm layering. Things are getting covered up. Bright colors are getting, covered up. Now I'm using my hand to monoprint because why not? A 3-year-old would do that. Our 3-year-old granddaughter used her feet, so I'm using my hand. Probably use my feet if I could. Just moving it forward with things I love. And now I'm going into asemic writing. We talked about that as well in our pro membership group. What is asemic writing? It's sort of like this pseudo quasi attempt to make something look like it is writing. And you can be thinking of a phrase or a poem or something you love, but disguising it, like I do this a lot. I'll be thinking something, and then as I write it, I'm definitely like, I'm thinking it, but not writing literally, because that way it allows me to kind of have this expressive mark, which is meaningful to me, but it is not literal. Nobody can read it. Now I'm adding more rectilinear to this massively curvilinear painting because that's what I don't have, and it's also what I love. I must have a sense of geometry at some point in my paintings. Now, you'll see later where this painting goes. It's just a stage. I realize about my painting process, and this is only something that each of you are going to feel in time what you must have. And if you can boil that down or distill it down to 3 things that you absolutely feel you must have, that is a very, very good indication of what your personal voice is evolving toward. Now that can change in time. It could be specific to a series. Here I'm showing the monoprint part. But 3 things, if you think about it, because we oftentimes can't feature 20 things. And oftentimes our early paintings do feature 20 different things. Everything but the kitchen sink. So the way to, that just means that there's a lot of chaos. So if you can boil it down to, like, in this particular painting, what is it that I'm really responding to? Is it the color? Is it the texture? Is it symbols? Is it some text that I've written? Is it some specific type of shape? And then if you identify that and you start to repeat it with variation, pretty soon you'll be obliterating some things to feature those things you really care about in that one painting. Now then, if you love that painting, you might do a series. So that's often how I work. Now I'm going to pin Shiloh's comment here because it's a really good one. The swatch sheet before I got started, yes, I did. And I think I'm going to just pause this video real quickly and show you it because I think it's kind of an important thing to show you.
Let's see. Let's
So
get bigger.
how do we do this, Lisa?
Wait a minute.
Here we go. Okay. Whoops.
We hit it at the same time always.
More and more. I did label this on the top. Fluorescent Colors, and what it just says is, keep it simple, but I even listed the Nova colors. So it's 199 fluorescent blue, 193 fluorescent red, 197 fluorescent yellow, plus black and white. And as I was saying earlier in this clip here, I was really responding to like these down here, much more so than the warms. Like I'm just not responding to these reds very well. So you can tell I'm really kind of avoiding them. And I also responded very much to these very sophisticated grays along the bottom. And so just pointing out the value of a swatch like that is very valuable to have one. And what else? Any other questions about what I'm doing? How do you mix your color palette? Okay, that's a great question from Bonnie. How do I mix my color palette? I do, because I'm working acrylic, there are a couple things I did here that were out of necessity, right? Because when you work large scale, we've often talked about you got to scale up your tools. And this isn't even that large scale, but it's definitely larger than what I would normally be doing. Okay, so I do have a wet palette, which is the tracing paper or the blue shop towels that have been soaked and drained and then sitting in a cafeteria tray. I've got that video on my YouTube channel. That simply keeps your paint moist, and you can rest a wet, paintbrush full of paint on that. It will not dry out. So that's a huge advantage, because we all know that acrylics will dry out in our brushes. They'll dry out very quickly, and then, you can't use it anymore. So the wet palette will keep your brushes nice and wet, your paint nice and wet for actually even longer than 24 hours, especially if like at the end of the day, you've got a lot of paint left and you put the clamshell, you have a second cafeteria tray, you pop it over the top like a clamshell. And now, you could walk away for 2 days and come back and your paints are still wet. So if any of you guys are interested in that, it's one of my videos, and a lot of people have loved it because it's really saved their brushes. So then I decided that I needed to get some little containers, like the little yogurt ones, the 8 ounces, and they're empty, of course. And I mixed various like blues, blue grays. I had like light, mid-tone, dark, so that I could just carry that little container with me, not have to carry my wet palette, because I needed more quantity. I needed a higher volume of paint. So like with this brush I have, it's like a 2-inch short-handled brush. Like you start to need more paint. And I think at some point I'm probably going to show you my little yogurt container here. But yeah, that worked pretty well in terms of quantity. And at the end of the day, when I had too much left, I poured it into a little bottle with the tip on it and the cap, and was able to save that. And, it kind of was a learning experience for me. So that was a great question. Shiloh, did you make the swatch sheet before you got started? Yes, I did. In fact, I was a little leery about fluorescent colors. They'd been sitting in my cabinet, before I even moved to this newer studio. And it's like, well, I think maybe I better start using those fluorescent colors. Now, they are a little fugitive. So what I've done, what that means is that the color can fade over time. And Golden, which is a acrylic paint company, does make sort of a UV top coat, and I've ordered that so that it's just, I think partly like most art doesn't get hung like in bright sun in your house. So if I were to sell this painting, assuming it gets finished and all that, I would just advise anyone who might want to buy it that don't hang it in bright sunlight. It's got a UV top coat on it, that kind of thing. And also, one thing I was thinking about too, whenever you start with a color you realize is fugitive, you can, like, let's say I love this little bit of fluorescent red at the end. Well, I can mix this up with my cadmium red plus a little bit of yellow and a bit of blue. I can get pretty close to that fluorescent color. Those colors are not fugitive. And if I go over them with non-fugitive colors, I've just used the fluorescent colors as an indicator of where I like to be, but then I can always go over it with more permanent colors. Lisa, have you ever tried that? Fluorescents or...
No, I haven't bought any of them. I was always worried about them being fugitive, so I just haven't bought them.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I didn't know they were fugitive, so I got them on sale.
That's okay. You can use Golden's UVLs on top of them.
Yeah. Welcome, Deb. Yes, better late than never is right. You're never late when you pop in. We're just happy to see you. And okay, so let's see. Yeah, back to that long brush again, and making my, again, this is like trying all these different ways of using a long-handled brush where I'm just tapping the canvas, making little dots, and if the paint runs, it runs. But you can see now that the difference between where I am now versus where we started this clip really have moved the painting forward. There has been a lot of obliteration. A lot of things have been covered up. Now, the one thing that I'm feeling is that it's feeling very opaque. And this battle between opacity and transparency, another thing I feel I must have is complex color. Complex color can either be you mix it on your palette as a complex color, which just means instead of red, it's red plus something. Even white, even gray, even black. Now it's more complex than red, right? You start to add more colors to it, like a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow. That color is becoming more and more complex. So what I'm feeling as I step back, even at this stage, is that, wow, it's really opaque. So I'm going to be heading into this direction, you'll see pretty soon, where I try to add some transparency. And there are a couple ways you can do that. One is sanding back is a way to, by peeling back, say, an opaque layer, and you start to see what's underneath it, a hint of it, that ghost, that's a bit of transparency. That's one way to do it. Another way is with a glaze. Okay. Oh, good. So Shiloh's going to do a swatch with her own fluorescents. And hi, Kathleen. Glad you're here. And Christina Malwell, great question. How do I know that they're not permanent? Because my good friend Lisa Debates, who's sitting right there, said, well, they're not permanent. And how I missed that, I guess it's because I've never owned fluorescent colors before. Lisa, how did you find out about that?
Well, I wanted to buy them because, of course, I love bright colors, right? But when reading about them, it clearly states that they're, not the highest light fastness.
Yeah, and paints you guys have on the label, especially from Nova Color, Gold, and any really, reputable company will tell you that like they have a rating, right, Lisa, of light fastness. I think this one had like a 3, with number 1 being top, or the vice versa. I think number 1 though is the most light fast. Most colors are light fast, but fluorescent colors, for whatever reason, they come in markers too and everything else. I don't know if all the markers are not,
right,
and spray paints are not. Is that true for everything?
Yep, because of whatever, I can't remember what it's called that's in it that makes them fluorescent, but that's fugitive.
Okay. So. Another way to look at it is, how many of us work with, like, again, I always point out Mark Bradford, because he picks up garbage from the street and he makes art with it, and obviously a lot of stuff that he's putting on his paintings, which are super large, and he's like super famous around the world now. He's not worrying, well, what if this ink on this magazine paper that I got out of the garbage is going to fade? And I have to say that in this current state of existence, I feel the same way. I say, let it be. I do try very hard to use professional paints and all that, but that's not to say that if a little bit of like something I throw in there is not completely up to those higher standards, then it becomes part of my voice and part of what I actually want to say, that I don't feel everything is permanent in life, and it's part of my statement. And I don't expect, for everyone else to do what I'm doing, but and I clearly say if I'm doing something experimental, I would definitely state that in the work, because I do a lot of tests as well, and I'll show you that in a second. At this point, when I am in this painting, I'm like, should I start to work into cold wax and oil? Of course, I was thinking that I would, until I did some tests, and I'll show you them when I get to that point, because it was very disappointing. And I have to say it was because of the fact that the canvas is very coarse. yes, it is canvas. And it's, like I said, it's very coarse. The more expensive the canvas you buy, the tighter the weave. And I've got some tight weaves, but because they were so expensive, I don't want to use them yet until I really know what I'm doing. I could easily be working on paper, and I have, okay, some of this I want to show you is kind of where I'm at. And now I'm mixing up a glaze. I was telling you that I was feeling like I was lacking transparency. So I've decided to take this fluorescent red, really thinned it out with airbrush medium. And I'm just brushing it on very loosely all over the painting, kind of distributing it all around evenly. In some cases, I'll lift it up, but immediately there's a different feel to it. And I'll just mention again that when you use a glaze, your darks get a little lighter and your lights get a little darker. And as long as you're prepared for that, all that means is don't be disappointed because what you're doing is you're kind of flattening the depth of your painting when that happens. You're going from higher contrast to lower contrast. So it just means that you're going to have to pop out your darks and pop out your lights again. Your lights will have gotten a little darker, so just put some more white in there. Your darks would have gotten a little lighter, put some more darks in there. And I will do that a little later in this clip. Some of the paint is dripping, but I'm liking that. I'm just open to anything that's happening right now. The fluorescents do not glow in the dark as far as I know. When I left my studio last night, I didn't see it glowing.
It was a black light.
Oh, okay. Milika, how long do they last? Do they fade, become lighter, or do they go to a different color like perfume? Good question, Milika. I don't really know the answer to that. I would just say that I would expect the color itself to fade. And like I said, what I am thinking of doing at the very end of this is bringing in some RNF pigment sticks, which I don't think you need to have the acrylic gesso underneath. I think that they're goopy enough that they will stick to the canvas. And pretty soon I'm going to show you a before the glaze and an after the glaze, just a still image, because I know from this angle it's hard to see.
The glaze is so pretty. I love it. Of course,
yeah, me too. Didn't it change?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing too. Like you start to feel when things are just two, one, and not the contrast. I had no glazing in here until I added this red, and the red just was like, oh yeah, now those blues are cool. Not really cool, but
so pretty.
Yeah, thanks.
I was wanting to mention your Art and Success Pro Masters School, Pam, and I was trying to post a link from my YouTube, on YouTube on my phone, and it won't copy and paste the post.
Yeah, okay.
So, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to copy. I did copy and paste a post earlier from yours here in the stream, and I just wanted to check if people could see that link I posted from Pam in the stream, because I want to be sure that people know how to reach you. And,
sure. Well, I can just say that my school is artandsuccess.com. It's pretty easy to remember that one. And then once you get in there are a lot of free things for you guys. If you're new to my school, new to my teaching, I do have lots of free things I give away. A whole free resources page where I list all my favorite resources. And I've got some, there's these YouTube videos are in a neat organized area in the free videos and tutorials section. You can join my school for free. And then for those who are really serious artists, my mission is to help artists really understand the foundations of art. And so my focus, here's the before the glaze. Okay, that's what it looked like. And then there's after the glaze. So just scattered it around, and I did lift the glaze in some areas. Now I'm going to add geometry.
Hey everyone.
So I'm going to turn this up.
I'm mixing up a very thinned out paint here that's related to the painting behind me, and I've thinned it out with airbrush medium, and you can see it's very liquidy. And I've got a sponge roller here, and one of the things that I've been experimenting with is working on this ability to get semi-transparency using tracing paper that's been coated with acrylic in differing amounts of transparency, so that I can then cut out the shapes I want after they're dry and then collage them over the painting. And I've never actually done this with a sponge roller before, so I'm going to just show you my process. It may or may not work. It's an experiment. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going to apply it to tracing paper with the sponge roller, and then I'm going to lay it on a special paper that is like a Teflon release paper. It's used when you ship acrylic paintings. It's kind of the wrap that you would put against the surface because it doesn't stick to acrylic. Because these tracing papers are so delicate, they're very, very thin, I need to make sure that it's not going to stick to whatever it's laying on top of as it dries. If I had endless area and could hang it dry, and I have tried that, but sometimes the paper will tear because it's so thin, and when it's wet, it's very fragile. So my idea is to lay it on this acrylic release paper, and hopefully as it dries, I'll be able to have some usable sheets. So I'm going to turn my camera around and show you what I'm doing. So you can see my Teflon release paper on the floor. I've laid it out here, and there's a pretty good length of it so that I can lay various papers. Now this is the tracing paper I'm going to be using, and I've shown this to others before. It is a Benfang paper, but it's super thin. And so when you get it wet, you know, that's the thing, it's very fragile. So I'm just going to lay it down here and see what happens. I don't know if it'll work. Kind of hope it does.
So I decided to really speed this up because it's super boring, but this is a lot harder than it looks. And I've been doing this for like the last 6 months, working with this tracing paper to try and get, you know, sometimes when you know exactly what you want, but you don't really know how to get it, there's a lot of troubleshooting. And when I found this tracing paper, I decided that, hey, this is like so thin. One thing I tried to do at first was dip it into like a very like water with some color in it, and it kind of fell apart. So now I'm trying this roller and finding that not only does that work a whole lot better, but the whole point of this is to not have brush strokes. And it's a lot of work to do this because, you know, you have to mix up the paint, make it really, really thin. You got to get just the right transparency. And I tried a lot of different colors, but anyways, I prepared about 10 of these papers over the last couple of weeks, and you'll see at the very end how I'm going to use them. But right now what I'm doing is I'm going to be adding some geometry to this painting because I've got a majority of curvilinear. And as I told you, I personally must have some geometry. Now, I never know how much I'm going to put in, but I'm kind of thinking it's kind of like I was thinking at this point, how much painting for me is like a chess game. I'm kind of thinking a few moves ahead. And that only happens from like just knowing myself and painting for a long, long time, and, you know, remembering some things I did in the past that worked for me to get the amount of geometry into this painting that I want. And this would be way more than some people would want to do, but I'm going to be layering this painting. I'll be obliterating like this underpainting, but again, I wanted semi-transparency. I did not want to, in other paintings in the past, I've just totally obliterated, but in this case, I wanted a semi-transparent layer with no brush marks. That's really hard to do with acrylic. And so this is where I did some tests, and I'll just show you real quickly here. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to show you, grab my little swatches here. So before you make any decision to move a painting from say acrylic into cold wax and oil, and this is several layers here actually. This blue was acrylic, and then I put acrylic clear gesso made by Liquitex because that's what I was going to do to transition into oil and cold wax. And then I did this white over here, titanium white that was mixed with some 1-3 Gelkid to Gamsol. It dried pretty fast overnight, in fact, because it's very, very thin. And you can't really see it. Well, maybe you can. Because of the tooth of the canvas, like the tooth was really bugging me. You can really see the tooth here, right? And this is more cold wax and oil on top. And I decided that, nope, that's just not going to give me what I want. And then I also did this other test. I thought, well, maybe if I brayer it on, but look at the texture of the canvas. You can see how coarse it is. That just wasn't going to do it. So at that point, I decided that, okay, that is not what I want to do. So I just want to point it out that if you're gonna consider moving into, say, oil and cold wax over an acrylic painting, you might want to do a swatch if it's an unusual surface for you. And for me, it was, and that's why I decided to keep going with acrylic. So now what I'm doing is I am, let's see. I am putting on this green tape, and notice you saw it maybe previously where and this is actually a tip from somebody on YouTube. I took acrylic gloss medium and I just a little bit on the side of the tape that's going to face this layer that I'm going to apply with a sponge roller. That, if you let that dry, that will give you a nice clean edge. If you don't do that, then sometimes the paint will slip underneath the tape and give you kind of that, kind of serrated edge. And not that it would matter all that much, but when I found that out, I tried it and it works. So just keep that in mind if you ever tape anything out. A little bit of gloss or matte acrylic medium over the edge of the tape, then paint over the tape, then remove the tape. You'll get a much cleaner edge. Now I'm drying it because I'm using my hair dryer because I'm impatient, and it does dry really fast. Now below that, so I did measure like where I want my layers to be, and again, I am going to go for a semi-transparent layer. I'm hoping for no brush strokes. There are a lot of things that I wasn't sure were going to work, but I just used the roller on the tracing paper and that went pretty well. So I thought, okay, if I can do it on there, then why don't I just do it directly on this painting? So here I am with the roller. I've mixed a very, very semi-transparent light gray. I'm going a little bit lighter in value. And as you can see, it is semi-transparent. And another way to make it more transparent is after it dries, you can kind of sand back. And I did some experiments with that as well. Questions here.
Well, I can't figure out how to translate the comments that we have there, and I'm looking that up.
Oh, what do you mean translate the? Oh, you mean the the Spanish?
Yes, and I don't speak it.
Right. No, I don't either. If anyone knows Spanish, Marcello is asking. Okay, Maxine says, do you have a video on how to get your wall set up and mounting your canvas onto that setup? This is a new experiment as well, Maxine. So I appreciate the question. Yeah, and probably one of my YouTube shorts, I will show you more. Like, this is an experiment. How many times have I said, Lisa, that this is an experiment? See, now I'm removing the tape and you can see that the edge is going to be pretty, good in terms of its being a line that didn't get fuzzy. Notice also that I'm reusing the tape. So as far as the setup here, it's just some strips of wood. And I decided that you can see on the top that the canvas extra, the perimeter that would be stretched later, right? You gotta like cut your canvas so there's enough for stretching later. And I taped all that off. The stuff that I knew was going to be stretched later, I taped it off. You can't see that here because it's been painted over, but I wrapped it over the top of the wood and then tacked it and then screwed it to the wall. Because if I want to remove this from my wall and work on something else, all I have to do is unscrew 2 screws on the top and 2 screws on the bottom. I only got 3 tacks on the bottom because the bottom was not as much of a problem. Then I can hang another canvas there, right? And I can just leave this one attached to the wood with the thumbtacks in there. Again, the screws are what make this movable, not the tacks, because the tacks stay there. I don't really have a video on this, but it's you can kind of tell what I've done. And this is one of many experiments I've tried. Like, there must be a better way to do this because, most of us don't have more than one area on our wall, even if that, to do something large. That's my case, and many artists are that way. So what if you want to work on 5 large paintings at a time? And I needed a system where I could just undo some screws, remove it, hang up another canvas, work on that, remove it, hang this one back up. Plus my granddaughter's coming who's going to take over my entire studio. And I know that I'm going to have to remove everything off my wall, this one wall. Let's see here. Okay, I can actually, maybe I can translate this. I've got, Google Translate is a wonderful thing for translating these different languages until we get a computer chip in our heads that can translate for us. Let's see if I can.
Marie said she did it, and she thinks it's when I grow up, I want to learn to teach like you.
Aw, that's so sweet. Thank you.
And I have yet to figure out how, so I don't even know how Marie did that.
Oh, I know how. You just go to Google Translate and then you pop, it'll determine your language. I just need to get into comments here. Okay, here we go. So you copy paste, go to Google Translate. Pop in the text. Okay, so she's asking, it's a delight to see you working. Congratulations, very inspiring. I'm going to my atelier, which is a studio today, to do some plastic experiments like this. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, that's great, Marcello. So notice that, again, I have on a sheet of paper, I'm putting in these layers. Now, I know it's shocking. It feels shocking at first. It felt shocking to me, and I know that this is not going to be for everybody, but what I wanted to achieve here was each band is a different width, meaning like up and down. I'm talking about that being, or height, I should say. I'm going in with my brayer to make some areas more opaque than others. There were certain areas that you can tell I left alone, where just tiny little areas of that fluorescent red to peep through. I could also have sanded that later. I'm measuring carefully and realizing that instead of measuring from the tape, I'm measuring from the taped edge of the excess canvas, because I can't trust my own green tape, which is, it's not perfect, but I do know that when I taped off the canvas for the perimeter of the painting, that was going to be more accurate. Now, notice I'm reusing my tape as well. It's still really tacky. That's one of the advantages of using this green tape versus, say, the blue. Blue painter's tape is not nearly as tacky. And another test that Golden on their website, they tell you to do, like if you're not sure if you've got good adhesion, and they actually tell you this, put some sticky tape like this on top of your painting, let it sit there for a while, and take it off. If it pulls your paint off your canvas or your board, you know you don't have good adhesion. So when I pulled this green tape off, the only place paint came off was off the perimeter tape that is like blue tape. Now, you wouldn't expect acrylic to stick to blue painter's tape, right? So that was true. You can see when I pulled the green tape off, the paint came off that blue tape, but it did not come off the canvas. So that's how you know that you've got good adhesion when we're talking about acrylic. I'm not saying you can do that with oil and cold wax, because that's not a Golden's forte is oils. They're all about acrylic. So top layer got a little bit more opaque than I wanted. That's okay. I think this is a layer where I did some experimenting with, it's kind of opaque. Can I scrape it back? I'm not quite sure, but I think that's what I'm going to do here, is try a bunch of different ways to see if I can pull the paint back. I think I tried, well, even if I didn't do it in this layer, I tried a squeegee to pull the paint back. That obviously will pull it back, but kind of too much. And then you get all these messy marks. So then I think I took a plain foam roller with no paint on it, and I went over the wet layer, and it actually did lift some of the paint. I can't remember if that big layer was the one I did it on or not. So what I'm doing here is when I use, this is again why I'm not too worried about the fluorescent colors. I'm covering it over with paint that doesn't really have any fluorescent colors in it. They're grays. And I'm using that underpainting to choose what I love. What I love are these little bits of saturation, but most people who know my work know that I'm mostly into grays. So that's where this painting is headed. I'm letting some of that bright color pop through, but it will return later. And I think that's just my voice. That's what I like. here's a question from Marcello. Oh, and she has it in English. I could have sworn that I think she did the translation part.
She said she was going to try her poor English, and her poor English is great.
It is wonderful. Why is it important to paint in a wall and not in a table? I think that's a great question. And I personally feel that this would be too large. Like, I don't have a table big enough for this. And I do work on a table for, say, 12 by 12, up to maybe 24 by 24. If it gets any bigger than that, I'm really needing to step back a lot. And like, this is time lapse, so you can't see all the times that I'm stepping back, but almost everything I do, every mark I make, I'm standing back and trying not to trip over cords and fall. But yeah, it's just, I think size has a lot to do with it. And whatever allows you to step back is pretty important to me, because what you see up close is oftentimes, like, I can be leaving my studio and I look back at the wall and it's like, wow, that's a totally different feel than when I was 5 feet away. Right, Lisa? Do you find that?
It is. Absolutely.
So we're using the tape. I only used these 2 pieces of tape for the entire thing. I was pretty happy about that, because, you know, this tape is some pricey tape. And I knew that when I grabbed it, but I was like, well, you know, maybe it'll be tacky enough. And it did work. Oh, good. Marit says, Marcella, we managed to translate just mentioning I'm a Norwegian and have done lots of English language errors. Not really, Marit. People are much more understanding than I thought. And your English looks great to me. She's always so complimentary. Thank you, Marit. Yeah. Okay, see if I have any questions that I forgot or didn't see. Yeah, you guys, I'm going live on these Mondays, but when we launch the Art Success Masters course in the fall officially, we're going to start it all over again. We've already done it once. We've got a lot of founding members, over 700 who beta tested this course, and it's my best course that I probably will ever create in my entire lifetime, because I poured all 30 plus years plus like the best of my MFA. Like, what did I learn? What was important? What's the takeaway here? And when you boil all that down, you know, it's not a massive amount of information, but it's the information that I use now, like of all the stuff I've learned. My toolbox is the distillation of what's in that course, and I share that with everybody. Now I'm showing you guys the layers, and you can see they're semi-transparent. So I was pretty, you know, happy that well, mission accomplished, I guess I can say. There's still bits of color showing. And after this video was done, I started to work with those tracing papers that I had covered with acrylic, and I wasn't sure, are they going to work? You know, not sure. But I figured, you know, some paintings are all about experimentation, and you don't know if they're going to work. If they don't work, then the fact that they didn't work is a huge advantage. It's a huge learning experience. So if I create a painting and I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to be really happy with it, or if it fails, the failure itself is a wonderful learning experience, because now that's one thing you know you can't do. So what I'm showing you right here is actually where I am right now. And I will either next Monday, I'll either be showing you how I did this, or I'll be showing you something else. Because what this is, it's very much related to the shapes I love. So notice how I started out with this free-flowing automatic painting and drawing and layering and obliterating and all that. Then I put in these strata stripes in differing. None of them are the same. Some are wider than others. Some are more transparent than others. The color even changed. But now on top of that, I'm layering again. And I ask myself, you know, what do I love? And I love unusual shapes. And I must have my unusual shapes. Notice that they're semi-transparent, which again is something that's why I did the tracing papers. A lot of work to get what I wanted, but I would say that I'm getting that effect that I wanted. So now I'm cutting these shapes out rather than painting them directly on the canvas. I'm able to cut through these sheets, and let me just show you real quickly here. Let's see, I'm going to move that out. Do this. Okay, so now I'm going to show you. I applied it with this Liquitex gel, medium, matte. Doesn't matter if it's matte or gloss. And these are just some of my cutout. You can see how thin they are. And you can kind of see how, let's see if I hold the swatch, and see how transparent it is, right? So
Yes.
yeah, essentially I'm using this tracing paper. I call them like a skin. It's like an acrylic skin because, and it's not that easy to get even like the acrylic onto the tracing paper where it doesn't have a lot of little dots that happen when you use that sponge roller. But I was able to get it, and then of course you let it dry, and then you can cut out what you want. And the advantage of collage paper, not everybody likes collage paper, and I get that, but what I was trying to do was be able to place them where I want because I'm trying to, the reason I'm doing this is because I know what I want. And once you know what you want, you can then speed up the process to get there. If you don't know what you want, there's a lot of like hit or miss stuff. But because I know that I love these unusual shapes and I know what I want in this painting. Now I have to figure out how I can do it so I can get there faster. Now, if I were to paint these, I know that I get streakiness. This is where I was going to use the cold wax and oil, but I had done tests that showed me that I'm not going to like the result. So I saved myself a bunch of time by not using cold wax and oil. This was an experiment, and I did this little piece that's in the lower left-hand corner. It looks like a worm. That was the first piece I collaged on there. Number one, I like the value. I like the crisp edges. And it was working for me. So then I went and I did other shapes and I just, got them on there. So what I'm doing now is I've got different colored tracing papers that I'm cutting into shapes that I like. I'm overlapping and that kind of thing. There's going to be a lot more of that. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to come in with my dry mark making tools, add more marks, accentuate the darks, bring in back some lights, probably bring in some RF pigment sticks for little pops of color. And so this is very much my aesthetic. I love it a lot more than I did before. So we can't always love what we're doing, but I think if we can just say, I like this better, then you're going in the right direction. Any questions, everybody?
Yes. Here is one.
Okay, Lisa.
Can you see that? I just highlighted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a waiting list to join the master's class? It's not a waiting list. We'd love to have you, but I want to let you know that we're officially launching in the fall, but because it's such a massive course, it's online, but I'm very available. So unlike Powerful Design Personal Color, which was totally independent study, this one is where I'm with you every step of the way. Right, Lisa? Am I there?
Yes.
And Lisa, are you there? Are you there?
Yes, always.
You kind of get both of us plus other admin, which are awesome. You get a whole like group if you choose. Now, I say that, but adding the pro membership to the Art Success Masters course is an additional thing you can have. It's a la carte, right? If you want to go through ASM all on your own, you can do that. If you want to add a little membership cost for Lisa and me and a lot of other painters, I kept it very affordable because I want education to be affordable. And I know that, anyone getting an art degree these days is paying $20,000, $30,000. My degree alone probably cost $40,000. And then that's just for 4 years of training. So I'm trying to make this super affordable, but I've distilled on everything down. So you just need to go to that link. I'll pop it in again. And if you have any questions, all you have to do, I'm going to just pop in a couple of things for you guys. And I really want you to check it out. And I want you to share this with your friends, because for anybody who's ever felt like, gosh, I'm self-taught, I feel like this is how I felt. I was self-taught for many, 2 decades. I'm like, something is missing. That's why I went to grad school. And then after that, I can actually summarize what happened in grad school in about 30 seconds. What happened in grad school was I realized what was missing out of my art, which is why I went back to school. What was missing from my art was me. And I painted very differently before grad school. When I came out of grad school, oh my gosh. And that's what the focus of Art Success Masters is. So any of you who are in that course now, any of my founding members, you guys know that finding who you are. Lisa, you're finding who you are. Lisa is all about
color.
Oh my gosh, she's so about color. And and if you guys do the work, like I've laid it out for you. I've got a pathway, it's a roadmap, and you follow along with us. You join the pro membership with me and Lisa and our 700 members. We go through it together. Each master class is in depth. It's like taking Powerful Design and Personal Color, which is like a level 101 course, and going to the grad level. Okay, so for those of you who don't be intimidated either, because you can be a beginner, complete beginner, and you'll be way better off than if you started out like I did, making all kinds of mistakes. And, it took me 30 years to get where I am because nobody had Art Success Masters. If I could have taken that course, I would have, been able to move my art forward faster. But a lot of our artists are getting awards, and not that that's the only measure of success, but Lisa's gotten a number of awards. She's selling her work. Not that that's any indication either. It depends on what you want. But we've got other artists who are exhibiting their work and, all kinds of things. It's really gratifying to know that the system works.
And just learning, like when I learned that color's my thing, that was part of it. Everything I learn is wonderful, and it's all a process of doing the work.
Yes. Yeah, and I have to emphasize that, trying to get rid of this, Lisa, how do I do that?
Okay, just a second, let me do it.
There's got to be, I still don't know. That's why Lisa's here, guys, because I'm like a computer dummy many of the times. But so, yeah, again, I know a lot of you guys have taken Powerful Design and Personal Color. That was like the beginning foundational course I did before COVID. And I have over 1,000 students in there, and they've really amped up their work. But then in 2021, I started the pro membership group, and together we all worked together. I got feedback. They were my beta testers of Art Success Masters. I know in my heart that I will never create another course that is as comprehensive as that one course. Everything literally is in there. And in the fall, I'll be adding a little bit more because I want to give a challenge for our veteran members who've been through it the first time. But because it's lifetime access, you can go through it again and again. And each time you go through it, you will be a different artist. That I can guarantee you, because I've gone through it and I'm a different artist. I can't believe how much I've learned from the master classes myself. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And okay, Rebecca's in Powerful Design Personal Color. You will get a very special discount on Art Success Masters. You can get it for a discount. So all you have to do, I'm going to give you my email, Rebecca. Just email me. It's, I have to think.
Here, I can post it.
I think this is it, right, Lisa? Yeah, this is my support email, you guys. If you ever have a question or you want to reach out to me, I will be in touch with you. All right, so just found this used book, 101 Things to Learn in Art School by Kit White. All right, thank you, Liz. And then I like what It Can Be wrote. The cutouts are like Matisse. Matisse-like, yeah, I all I can say is that I do love Matisse's work, and I also love the overlapping of transparent papers, because where they intersect, you get a darker value. So that's kind of fun. Okay, guys, great. Any other questions? Because otherwise, we're going to let you go for Memorial Day for those who live in the U.S. and for those who are around the country. Thank you for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video, because that helps, and your comments are very helpful. And, we really enjoy being here. Don't we, Lisa?
Yes, we love it.
Yeah. And of course, Lisa is my super co-host, not just any co-host, you guys. Any of you who are in pro, you all know and love Lisa, and she's just my right hand, like my right hand. My left hand too. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being here. And we will say goodbye for now.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day.
Yep, bye everybody. Great to have you. Marcello, sorry, one more question, Marcello. Teflon roll. Okay, sorry. All right, one thing at a time, guys. Sorry. First of all, the Teflon, I'm just going to tell you, it's you go to Talus, I believe it's Talus. It's either talus.com or just Google Talus, number one. that is like a museum quality company that has museum quality stuff. And ask for the it's either called Teflon Release paper, which is used for covering over acrylic paintings when you ship them, or it could be called Acrylic Release paper. I'm not really sure.
Is that TALAS?
It is. I think that's right. My Instagram account, yes. IG is just at Pamela Coe. Great. Anybody else? Okay, guys, if I don't see your question, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great having you here, and we hope to see you next Monday. I don't know what I'll be doing. I have to be doing a lot of cold wax and oil, getting ready for a show in July. So largely I'll be doing both, but you never know.
And I did just find that it is talusonline.com.
Perfect. I didn't think it was as easy as I thought. It never is. So here's the website for the acrylic release paper that I laid on the floor, and you can use it again and again. So if you don't throw it out. You can keep using it again and again. Okay, guys. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.